Bonjour et bienvenue à la 7e cérémonie des prix d'excellence du Centre sur les politiques scientifiques canadiennes. Je suis Christina Stahulak du Conseil national de recherche du Canada et je suis aussi la coprésidente du comité de gestion des prix de la CPSC. We are joining you from Ottawa, and before beginning the ceremony, I wish to acknowledge that we are on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people.
Welcome everyone. My name is Naveed Aziz, CEO CGen, Canada's national platform for genome sequencing and analysis. And I'm also one of the co-chairs of the CSPC Awards Management Committee. It is such a privilege for us to honor the winners of the 7th Annual Canadian Science Policy Centre Awards with all of you today. The CSPC Science Policy Awards were designed to celebrate and encourage all Canadians who make important contributions to finding evidence-based solutions to the complex problems we face as a society.
This year, CSPC celebrates 3 categories of awards: the CSPC Youth Award, the CSPC Trailblazer Awards in Science Policy and Innovation Policy, and the CSPC Lifetime Achievement Award. The Canadian Science Policy Centre is committed to fostering and recognizing excellence in science policy. The CSPC Awards of Excellence celebrate 3 categories of awards: the CSPC Youth Award, the CSPC Trailblazer Award, and the CSPC Lifetime Achievement Award. Le Centre canadien de la politique scientifique s'engage à favoriser et à reconnaître l'excellence en matière de politique scientifique. Les prix d'excellence du CPSC célèbrent 3 catégories de prix: le prix jeunesse, le prix du pionnier et le prix couronnement de carrière. The CSPC Youth Award recognizes an individual under the age of 35.
I am very interested in how the environment impacts human health.
Who proposes an innovative and compelling evidence-based policy that will make a positive difference to Canadians. This award is designed to highlight innovative, evidence-driven policy ideas and is open to candidates in all disciplines and sectors.
I humbly thank the CSPC for honoring me with this award. My proposal is a sign of the collective endurance of Indigenous peoples and our refusal to be altogether defined by victimization. On behalf of myself and the communities that sustain me and to whom I am responsible, I thank you.
Le prix jeunesse de CPSC reconnaît une personne de moins de 35 ans qui propose une politique novatrice et convaincante, fondée sur des données probantes qui fera une différence positive pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Policy changes when we facilitate dialogue and refuse to accept the status quo. So ask questions and demand better.
Ce prix est conçu pour mettre en lumière des idées politiques innovantes et est ouvert aux candidats et candidates de toutes les disciplines et de tous les secteurs.
So there's billions of dollars in cost savings and thousands of lives that could be prevented if we use genetic testing to identify gene variants.
I am deeply appreciative to all those who shared their stories with me so that I could understand these pressing policy needs.
The CSPC Trailblazer Awards recognize individuals who have demonstrated novelty and creativity through leadership, vision, courage, and commitment to the overall advancement of the science and innovation policy ecosystem. These individuals have been instrumental in the Canadian policy ecosystem by boldly spearheading change, all while blazing a trail and inspiring others to follow.
So we need more scientists in leadership positions in government, because that's when you make science better with policy and policy better with science.
The CSPC Lifetime Achievement Award recognizes an individual who has made outstanding contributions to science and innovation policy and who, throughout their career, has championed and inspired the science and innovation policy community in Canada.
For everything you've done over the last 10 years, and I'm, like I said, je suis gobsmacked. Merci beaucoup.
Le prix couronnement de carrière reconnaît une personne qui a apporté une contribution exceptionnelle à la politique de la science et de l'innovation et qui, tout au long de sa carrière, a inspiré la communauté des politiques de la science et de l'innovation au Canada.
But the maxim remains, if you don't get the science right, you'll never get the policy right.
Le prix Jeunesse en politique scientifique reconnaît une personne de moins de 35 ans qui a élaboré une proposition de politique novatrice et convaincante, fondée sur des données probantes qui fera une différence positive dans la vie des Canadiens et Canadiennes.
The passion and drive of these amazing young people inspires hope for the future of science policy and is a good reason to celebrate today. Of course, the organization of such important aspects of CSPC would not be possible without the selfless efforts of many of the CSPC volunteers. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the CSPC Awards Committee volunteers, Amar Benessa, Anne Ballantyne, Bridget Vien, Martina Sultana, Teresa Joseph, and also Soha and Wendy from the CSPC office.
Une sélection équitable des candidats ne serait pas possible sans l'engagement et le dévouement de nos membres du comité des prix. The members of the Youth Award Selection Committee are Alice Aiken, Vice President, Research and Innovation at Dalhousie University; Elisabeth Douville, Founder and Managing Partner at Amorchem; Hannah Harrison, Postdoctoral Scholar at the University of Guelph and CSPC 2020 Youth Award winner; John Hepburn, CEO of MyTax; Paul Dufour, Principal, Policy Works and the University of Ottawa; Sandra Noel, Director, Innovation, Science and Economic Development, Canada.
In the Youth Awards category, we have two runners-up. Hannah Rahim is an associate with Boston Consulting Group, and her proposal was entitled The Need for Community-Driven Phenomenological Research to Address the Suicide Crisis Among Indigenous Peoples in Canada.
Good afternoon. I would like to start by congratulating all of the award winners and expressing my gratitude to the Canadian Science Policy Centre for providing a platform for youth to share our policy ideas. It's great to see CSPC recognizing the importance of policy initiatives to support suicide prevention research through a lens that amplifies the voices of Indigenous peoples. I hope that my proposal can spark discussion around research approaches that are rooted in partnership, that consider health in the holistic context of communities' history, knowledge systems, and lived experiences.
The next runner-up is Taylor Riedlinger. Taylor is a master's candidate at Royal Roads University, and her proposal was titled A Call to Modernize Canadian Fisheries Policies for Better Community, Well-Being, Food Security, Climate Resilience, and Economic Prosperity.
Good afternoon. My name is Taylor Riedlinger, and I'm joining you today from the territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Songhees and Kosamson nations. And I'm very honored to be acknowledged by the Canadian Science Policy Centre with this RunnerUp Award for my proposal, A Call to Modernize Canadian Fisheries Policy for Better Community Well-Being, Food Security, Climate Resilience, and Economic Prosperity. It gives me great optimism that organizations like the CSPC exist to act as conduits for creative collaboration and for the translation of science into policy action. I'm grateful that my work can be acknowledged on this platform, and I hope that it helps to further communicate the needs of coastal citizens to those in decision-making power. I'm excited to take part in the conference proceedings this year and to have the chance to learn from other innovators and policy experts. Thank you again for this honor and opportunity.
Our CSPC Youth Award winner this year is a postdoctoral scholar at the University of Ottawa for her proposal entitled Finding Respite Care for Persons Living with Dementia Among Students of Canadian Health Professions. Please welcome our 2021 winner, Dr. Sharika Sarasija.
Hello all. I'm so thrilled to be the recipient of the Canadian Science Policy Centre's Youth Policy Award this year. I would like to express my gratitude to the Award Selection Committee and to the Canadian Science Policy Center as I accept this year's Youth Policy Award. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Ottawa, and especially my supervisor, Dr. Stephen Ferguson, for always supporting me, even as my career goals diverge from pure biomedical research. And on a very personal note, I wish to thank my partner, Cameron McIntosh, for his unwavering support and belief in me. I also need to thank all my wonderful friends, colleagues, and my very large family, especially my grandparents. During most of my childhood, my maternal grandparents were my primary caregivers. My grandfather, R. Govinathan Nair, or Puppy, as I tend to call him, was my first teacher, mentor, and is to this day my greatest champ. Puppy is now in his late 90s, and although his mental faculties remain sharp, he needs a full-time healthcare worker to assist him in his daily routine. Additionally, my parents and brother also reside in the same city in India and are always at hand to help in any way necessary. Unfortunately, the same privilege does not apply to many others. However, elder care is an issue to which we should all be paying more attention, especially as we see increases in lifespan. Elder care can become particularly challenging with the onset of dementia. Dementia is a chronic and progressive deterioration of brain function, which may result in symptoms affecting mood, personality, language skills, and can lead to cognitive decline. It's usually brought on by neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease or as a result of a traumatic brain injury. Currently, there are about 500,000 people living with dementia in Canada, and these numbers are set to multiply in the next few decades. While my research over the past decade has focused on understanding the mechanism behind the onset and progression of Alzheimer's disease, I must confess that I started paying closer attention to the human toll of the disease fairly recently. Earlier this year, I started volunteering with the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County as part of their Make a Connection, Take a Break program. This program is designed to allow volunteers to spend an hour or two a week interacting with a person living with dementia, thereby providing them with additional social interactions and respite to their primary caregivers. Persons living with dementia can rarely live alone, and their primary caregivers typically tend to be their family members. And they're also usually the only people who provide them any kind of social interaction or emotional support. Unfortunately, caregivers for people living with dementia work longer hours, have increased out-of-pocket expenses, and are more likely to report distress compared to caregivers of other seniors. While DSORC and other nonprofit organizations do exceptional work in finding volunteers to provide respite care to persons living with dementia, it is unfortunately not enough to fully address the challenges associated with providing them with consistent care. Therefore, I propose that regulatory bodies or health professionals, with financial and logistical support from corresponding provincial governments, institute a voluntary, financially incentivized internship program, urging students planning to enter a regulated health profession in Canada to step up to provide respite care to persons living with dementia. Students in regulated health professions receive years of anatomy, physiology, and patient care training. And more importantly, they possess the empathy required to provide respite care to persons living with dementia. Also, most students interested in health professions already volunteer in various medical and patient care settings to acquire experience prior to enrolling in the educational programs required for their professional choice. Students in various stages of their education can be matched to persons living with dementia depending on the extent of the student's healthcare training and the level of care required by the person living with dementia. Also, understanding the emotional, physical, and financial toll health professionals in training may experience as respite workers their services could be incentivized with discounted licensing fees, tax breaks on future income for a predetermined period, excellence in service awards, and free psychological counseling as needed. With this program, persons living with dementia would enjoy increased social interactions. Their primary caregivers would receive support and respite, while students planning to enter various regulated health professions will receive additional first hand experience in patient care. Thereby, we can take a bold step to address a social, economic, and health crisis before it overwhelms Canadian society. I hope that this proposal will be a bold first step to address a social, economic, and health crisis before it overwhelms Canadian society.
Last year, CSPC first introduced the Trailblazer Awards. These awards recognize individuals who have demonstrated novelty and creativity through leadership, vision, courage, and commitment to the overall advancement of the science and innovation policy ecosystem. This year, we are awarding a Trailblazer Award in each of the two categories, Innovation Policy and Science Policy. Like the Youth Award Selection Committee, we were also fortunate to have a stellar selection committee for the Trailblazer Awards. The members of the Trailblazer Selection Committee are Bonnie Schmidt, President, Let's Talk Science; Kevin Fitzgibbons, Executive Director, Natural Science and Engineering Research Council of Canada; Martine Lagacé, Associate Vice President, Research, Promotion and Development, University of Ottawa; Nipin Watts, Assistant Deputy Minister, Innovation, Science and Economic Development, Canada; Peter Phillips, Distinguished Professor, University of Saskatchewan; and Sue Pash, CEO, Digital Technology Supercluster.
Our first Trailblazer Award for the Innovation Policy category goes to Dr. Josephine Itawa. Dr. Itawa is recognized for her important contribution to social innovation policy and her leadership in anti-racist and health equity work. Dr. Itawa's research has resulted in seminal contributions to Canadian health policy and bringing racism to the forefront of dialogues. Her anti-racist healthcare practice was the first of its kind in the Canadian health literature. Dr. Itawa est reconnue pour sa contribution importante à la politique d'innovation sociale et pour son leadership dans la lutte contre le racisme et l'équité en santé. Les recherches du Dr. Itawa ont donné lieu à des contributions fondamentales à la politique canadienne de la santé et a placé le racisme au premier plan des dialogues. Sa pratique de soins de santé antiraciste était la première du genre dans la littérature canadienne sur la santé.
I am so happy and thankful to be honored with this award, the Trailblazer Policy Innovation Award. I am delighted to be here today attending the 13th Canadian Science Policy Conference, Building Forward Better. I'm deeply honored to receive this center's 2021 Trailblazer Innovation Award. The journey to this platform has been a collective one with many people supporting my work. I want to use this opportunity to thank all of those people, starting with my family. My family members, Michael Etowa and Christian Etowa, have been great support for my work, and my children, Tammy and Devalena. They've been instrumental for everything I do every day. I would also like to use this opportunity to thank all of those who support my work at the University of Ottawa in the Co-Create Lab, Collaborative Critical Research for Equity and Transformation in Health. This include Anne-Marie Gagnon, Susan Roloff, Cheryl Bichon, Bishwaji Ghosh, and Itunu Taiwo. Within that are also all the other work happening at the university that has been instrumental to my growth and encouragement to continue this work. I'd like to acknowledge the work of the Institute for science, policy, and society at the University of Ottawa, led by Dr. Monica Dettinger. The work that they're doing has really opened my eyes to fully appreciate the intersection of science and policy in the decisions we make every day. I would like to acknowledge Madame Laurier de Silva. Madame Marie Laurier de Silva created the Endowed Research Chair, which I held for 7 years in public health nursing, and that chair has been instrumental in terms of the opportunities I've had working with stakeholders across the city, in Ottawa, and also the country. I worked with Ottawa Public Health Chief Nursing Officer Esther Mogodan, Dr. Robin Taylor. These have been great leaders in supporting my work, and also with the Community Health Nurses of Canada, where I had the opportunity to partner with Dr. Aliyah Dosani, Dr. Cheryl Van Delen Smith to edit the community nursing textbook using health equity lens and social justice to create content that is relevant for Indigenous healthcare. This work is a source of bringing in an Indigenous perspective into our training as a community health nursing educators. I remember my early career mentor, Dr. Barbara Keddy, encouraging me to be part of the solution to addressing the lack of data and publications on the health of Canadians of African descent. She challenged me that I can be part of this solution. And I think I've taken that seriously, including in my earlier work, working with Dr. Adele Vukic and Iona Crawley and others at Dalhousie University to implement a recruitment and retention program for Black nursing students, a very successful program that led to the recruitment and retention of so many Black nursing students at the university. Equity Lens has created a central part of the work that I have done, whether it's chairing the National Standard for Community Nurses of Canada, co-chairing that group with Katie Dewart for the revision of the national standard. That has also informed the work I have done with the National Collaborating Center for the Determinants of Health and also the Canadian Public Health Association Board of Directors, where I served for a few years as well. So all of this work have been instrumental in terms of the influence my work has had, bringing community voices, especially from racialized community, to the center of decision-making and policy-making. And so finally, as I reflect on my work and the lessons learned over the years, I remain convinced that advancement in science and policy innovation are cornerstone to closing the health equity gap along racial lines. And I am hopeful that the path being created through this platform of the center remains open for diverse scientists and policy innovators to continue to create knowledge that's relevant to all Canadians. So I want to take this opportunity again to thank the center for creating the bridge to close health equity gap and advance racial equity. Thank you.
Our second Trailblazer Award this year for the Science Policy category goes to Dr. Jean Joly. Dr. Joly is recognized for his important contributions to non-genetic discrimination laws and public policies with national and international impacts.
Dr. Joly est reconnu pour ses contributions importantes aux lois et politiques publiques sur la discrimination non génétique, avec des impacts nationaux et internationaux.
Merci beaucoup. C'est un grand honneur pour moi d'être reconnu ainsi par le CSPC, une association canadienne incontournable qui réunit une large communauté multidisciplinaire et multisectorielle pour soutenir le développement de politiques sur la science, l'innovation et les technologies. When I started my career in research, I was interested in taking a broad, inclusive approach to policy development in the field of contemporary health sciences. Yet, embarking on a career going against the tide of more siloed, sector-specific approaches seemed like a project doomed to fail from the beginning. Luckily, it is at that early time in my academic trajectory that I met a person whom I consider as a trailblazer of trailblazers, Professor Barton Hoppers, whom I've had the privilege to count as a mentor throughout my career. Thank you, Barta, for sparking the initial fire and keeping it burning. Très tôt dans ma carrière, j'ai acquis l'intime conviction que la génomique et les big data offraient un moyen pour grandement améliorer notre système de santé. Yet, for all its potentials, many patient and research participants shied away from genomics, concerned that broad access to genomic and health data would be used to exacerbate existing inequalities, rather than to improve the health for all in our society. This perspective deeply affected not only patients, but also my scientific colleagues at the time. Jacques Simard, Pavel Hamet, Denise Avak, thank you for teaching me that thinking ethically about research and patient care requires much more than following blindly the ethical formalism that too often prevails. It is with them and other colleagues sharing similar conviction that already in 2005, I sat on and coordinated the Canadian Task Force on Genetic Discrimination in Life Insurance. Little did I know at that time that I was only scraping the tip of the genetic discrimination iceberg. Then I have expanded my research and policy work to other spheres of inequities such as employment, immigration, criminal investigations, and to other parts of the world, also impacted by this phenomenon. Broadening my horizon allowed me to meet other great role models. For example, I can mention the many discussions on genetic exceptionalism and on the notion of predictivity with my colleague Laurence Loif from the Council of Europe. I also remember advices on the importance of not using my academic mantle as an excuse to shy away from my ethical duty to communicate important research findings beyond the academic world, to advocate for real changes. Given to me by two great Canadian women, former Privacy Commissioner Jennifer Stoddard and Michelle Stanton-Jean, former Deputy Health Minister of Canada. Thank you as well to the two Eric Shoebridge and Eric Meslin, and to Rob Sladek for having been a source of positive energy and friendly advices at many determining times during my career. À travers ma recherche et mes échanges avec les parties prenantes et les victimes, j'en suis arrivé à la réalisation qu'une approche plus flexible et anticipatrice était devenue nécessaire. This led me to create the Genetic Discrimination Observatory, a network of multidisciplinary experts represented today in over 20 countries in 5 world regions. Of course, such an undertaking would not have been possible without the unflinching contribution of my amazingly talented team at the Center of Genomics and Policy. Special thanks here to Gracien Dalpé for coordinating the center. This brings me to the most recent chapter of my professional life, which, like most of you, was deeply impacted by COVID-19. When COVID struck, I soon realized that this was a public health emergency such as we had never felt before, and that we were completely unprepared for it. I had a chance to be given a unique opportunity by my great colleague at Genome Canada, Catalina Lopez Correa, Cindy Bell, and Rob Annan, to assist scientists in demonstrating the importance of genomics for the protection of public health in times of pandemic. At a time like this, it appeared to me that not including every Canadian COVID patient in the Kenko gene sequencing initiatives and not sharing their data in a secure manner to help fight the virus would be a real case of genetic discrimination. Through the determined and highly collaborative work of all involved, we have made real progress towards building a truly functional genomic pandemic prevention ecosystem that can make Canadians feel proud and safe at this difficult time. I'm grateful to my colleague at the Innovation Center, Marc Latrobe and Guillaume Bouc, for the stimulating talks, collaboration, and encouragement during COVID. But a lot of work remains to be accomplished to make this ecosystem truly transparent, inclusive, and equitable. I'm eager to continue collaborating my energy and ideas to meet this challenge. For someone that was not sure he could make a career in multidisciplinarity, health, and public policy, my life for the last 20 years has been incredibly stimulating, busy, and full of unexpected rewards. I want to end by thanking the most important persons without whom this adventure would not have been possible. My colleague and alter ego at the Center of Genomics and Policy, Manzawadi for his indefectible support, humility, and generosity throughout the years of collaboration, and my wife and children for their patience and resourcefulness in palliating to my many absences. Merci à tous. Cette reconnaissance est vraiment appréciée.
Merci Navid et Christina et félicitations à tous les gagnants. Now it's time for the announcement of the CSPC Lifetime Achievement Award. The recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award was selected by the CSPC Board of Directors. This award recognizes an individual who has created change and new directions over years of the career and pioneered new ideas that have inspired the community and shaped the landscape of science and innovation policy in Canada. La lauréate du prix de cette année est une personne ayant une présence et un impact de longue date dans le milieu des politiques scientifiques au Canada. Il s'agit d'une personne qui a dirigé de nouvelles initiatives et vécu dans le monde des politiques, le monde universitaire, le monde des affaires et le secteur sans but lucratif. The recipient of the CSPC 2021 Lifetime Achievement Award is Dr. Peter Nicholson. Dr. Nicholson has held numerous senior positions in academia, in Canadian business, fisheries, banking, and telecommunications, and in public service. He has served in several Canadian federal government departments, in the OECD in Paris, and as an elected member of the Nova Scotia legislature. Et dans la fonction publique, il a travaillé pour plusieurs ministères fédéraux au Canada, à la OCDE à Paris, et tant que membre élu de l'Assemblée législative de Nouvelle-Écosse. He was the inaugural member of the Prime Minister's National Advisory Board on Science, was the Chief Policy Advisor to the Prime Minister of Canada from 2003 to 2006, and was the founding president of the Council of Canadian Academies. Le Dr. Nicholson siège à titre bénévole au sein de nombreux organismes voués à l'avancement des sciences et de la technologie au Canada. Dr. Nicholson has served in a voluntary capacity on many organizations dedicated to furtherance of science and technology in Canada, including the founding chair of the Fields Institute for Research in Mathematics, governor of the National Research Council of Canada, both a director and a member of the Research Council of the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research, chair of the Canadian Institute for Telecommunication Research, and the inaugural chair of the members of both the Canada Foundation for Innovation and the Millennium Scholarship Foundation. Also, he served as the chair of the Standing Selection Committee for the federal government's Networks of Centers of Excellence program, board member of the Center for Drug Research and Development, and currently is the chair of the board of the Canadian Institute for Climate Choices. And he continues to serve in volunteer capacities, providing policy advice to the governments of Canada and Nova Scotia. Le Dr. Nicholson a signé de nombreuses publications, est fréquemment invité à partager ses idées sur les politiques d'innovation et l'innovation commerciale au Canada. Dr. Nicholson is a member of the Order of Canada. Dr. Nicholson is a true embodiment of the CSPC Lifetime Achievement Award. Dr. Nicholson, je vous félicite pour cette reconnaissance. I want to congratulate you on this recognition, and it is my absolute pleasure to present the award on behalf of the CSPC Board of Directors to you.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And talk about a bolt out of the blue. What a surprise. And my only regret is that it's hard to do justice to this humbling occasion while staring into a laptop monitor rather than being among you in the flesh and blood, as it were. But even as second best, this technology is certainly a marvel to behold. Now, first, I want to thank the board of CSPC and the anonymous person or persons who nominated me for the honor of the Science Policy Center's Lifetime Achievement Award. This honor is particularly special because the recognition of one's peers is certainly the recognition that matters most. And to receive such recognition while one can still draw breath is obviously extra special. Now, as I understand it, the Lifetime Achievement Award comes with only one obligation. It's that the recipient should take just a few minutes to give the audience some idea of why the recognition was bestowed in the first place. So bear with me. Now, during my topsy-turvy career of more than 50 years and still counting, I have touched many fields within the domains of academia, business, and government. Most recently, I've become quite deeply engaged on climate change as the board chair of the Canadian Institute for Climate Choices. And to the extent that I have been successful, a great deal of the credit belongs to my university education. First in physics, and then a doctorate in a branch of applied math, operations research, that deals with the optimal allocation of scarce resources to given ends. Now, my master's thesis in physics was titled The Electrodynamics of a Semi-Classical Free Electron Gas, and my PhD developed the abstract algebraic theory of the fast Fourier transform algorithm. Now, both of these projects were highly theoretical, although subsequently the first has proven to have relevance for the ongoing quest to develop fusion power, while the second has been relevant to signal processing of all kinds, from MRI machines to cell phones. Now, the point I want to make is that this early formative experience in abstract, curiosity-driven academic research under the tutelage of two outstanding mentors, Professors Melvin Kalkin at Dalhousie and Rudolf Kallman at Stanford, provided the intellectual foundation for the lifetime achievement being honored today. So what is the science policy lesson? And for that, we must first answer the following question. Why should the Canadian taxpayer support basic, curiosity-driven academic research in the first place? And the answer, once you think about it, is not all that obvious. And that's because the standard responses don't really measure up. For starters, researchers themselves believe their work is worthy of public support simply because it seeks to advance human understanding. True enough. But any resulting benefit in the form of new understanding is never guaranteed in view of the uncertainty inherent in research, but moreover, the benefit, if any, accrues to the human collective, not primarily to the Canadian taxpayer, who, acting rationally, might prefer to free ride on the research of others. On the other hand, politicians, business executives, and many university administrators make the case for public support of basic research based on the applications that may result. For example, the direct payoff in terms of jobs and growth when research is commercialized, or when it produces a treatment for some dreaded disease. Now, obviously, that's great when it happens, but it does not happen all that often, and certainly not often enough by itself to justify the nearly $5 billion a year that governments in Canada now spend to support research in higher education institutions. Moreover, the results of basic academic research are almost always published in the open literature and are therefore more likely to end up in applications developed in the US or China or Europe or wherever. Because after all, Canada has a small economy in global terms and one whose business sector has certainly not excelled in commercializing academic research. Better perhaps to rely on other countries that do. So, have our governments been more or less wasting $5 billion a year in support of academic research? Or put another way, where precisely is the payoff to the Canadian taxpayer? Now, the answer is that the payoff comes in the form of the highly qualified people that emerge from the academic research process, trained at the leading edge of knowledge. Now, most will remain in Canada and will implicitly repay the taxpayer's investment by applying throughout their careers, whether directly or indirectly, the foundational skills and habits of thought acquired in the academic research environment. Some will go on to develop world-class applications. Some will form companies that create the well-paying jobs so beloved of political rhetoric. And some, perhaps about a quarter of PhDs, will remain in academia to train the next generation. But the great majority will equip Canada with the sheer competency to run a 21st century knowledge-intensive economy. They provide the receptor capacity to adopt and apply the innovation generated not only in Canada, but the vastly greater stock of innovation that is generated worldwide. Now, that is why Canadian governments, perhaps without fully realizing it, are wisely investing $5 billion a year in fundamental academic research, which is the locomotive of advanced talent production. Now, I am a product of that system. And while I didn't pursue a career in physics or mathematics, apart from an early stint at the University of Minnesota, I have carried the imprint of my graduate level scientific training throughout a career in banking, telecommunications, public service, and even the commercial fishing industry. In none of these career stops was a person with my particular academic background common, but I believe it was that background which equipped me to contribute some unique outsider insights in each case. It is appropriate, therefore, that I rededicate this Lifetime Achievement Award to the academic research enterprise that stands as its foundation. Thank you.
To conclude this event, please join us in congratulating all of our awardees, and thank you to all the applicants, volunteers, review committees, and CSPC staff who made this award competition possible. Je vous invite à féliciter tous nos lauréats et lauréates et remercier tous les candidats, les bénévoles, les comités de sélection, ainsi que le personnel du CPSC qui ont rendu ce concours possible.
Thank you to all of our conference participants for attending this virtual ceremony, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.